Toronto Raptors take care of home court. They win game one. They handle business, hold the Golden State Warriors to about 109 scoring. It really wasn't even like that close, honestly speaking. They basically held them under 100 until the whole end of the game. So they did exactly what they were supposed to do. One of the things that I'm gonna say what I liked about both teams and what I didn't like about both teams. We'll start with the Raptors. I like the fact that Pascal Siakam gave you 32 big points. I like the fact that Kawhi Leonard chipped in 23. I like the fact that Marc Gasol chipped in 20, and he had I think he had 3 threes or something like that. So that being said, the Raptors kept the scoring pace up, and their defensive intensity was high. They only stayed on Clay and Curry for the most part, and they rarely made mistakes. They made a few couple, but it wasn't anything that was egregious because they're always playing with the lead. Even when the Golden State Warriors outscored them in the third quarter, they still held serve, and I think they pushed it. I think Kawhi pushed it to 7 with a 3 or 9, something like that. So they always kept it in, and that was really good. What I didn't like though is the fact that a lot of those shots that went in for the Raptors, they were basically they were like lucky shots. Like I remember Danny Green had a 3 in the corner, shot clock winding down, he just threw it up like it was like basically like a prayer. Siakam had a over the head throw with the ball, whatever the case is. That was like another prayer. Like he drove into the lane, he just threw it behind his head, and it went into the backboard or whatever. I think towards the end of the game, he also had another one of those plays where he drove to the basket and he just kind of threw it wildly up in the air. Fred VanVleet, another lucky shot off his toe was on the line. So throughout the series, they says better to be good than luck. Is lucky than good, but luck can only run for so long. So like you can't really depend on those shots to continue to fall somewhat through the rest of the series. The Raptors shot really well, but one of the key things that I think is kind of fool's goals is like Gasol hitting all those threes and Pascal going, I think he went 15 for 17 or something. Like at one point he was 13 for 15. Like he wasn't missing anything. So like to me, I don't like them relying on Pascal so much. Like I think even though I don't agree with many of the people that are analysts, I think it is true that they're going to need Kawhi Leonard to give them big games because you're not going to continue to rely on Pascal Siakam to keep hitting shots, hitting threes, all these other plays, making all these plays. Like I don't necessarily think that's quite realistic. Like for somebody to go 13 for 15 or 15 for 17 or something like that, I don't think that's really going to really play itself out throughout the series. But Toronto played really great defense. I don't necessarily want to hear that it was rust, because if you think about it, Curry had 34. He went 8 for 18. Clay went 8 for 17. And this is what I'm going to say. I'm going to start with what I didn't like from the Warriors. What I didn't like from the Warriors is they were really relying on Clay and Curry to really score all their baskets. And it was kind of like that strength in numbers, even though they played DeMarcus a little bit, that really didn't make a great big impact, whatever the case is. I think he had like 6 points or whatever. But like all those rolls to the rims by Looney and Draymond and stuff like that, these guys was like choking on layups. Like Draymond Green finished with triple-double, but he only had 10 points. Andre Iguodala starting lineup, 6 points, I believe. And Jordan Bell only had 2 points. So the strength in numbers didn't show itself tonight because Curry had 34. I think Klay Thompson had 21 or 26 or something like that. So it's like if those two guys are combining for 50 to 60 points or whatever the case is, you know, it's not good. And you're not able to like pull out those games. That's not good for you. So that's why I didn't like. I also didn't like the fact that Andre Iguodala was grabbing at his hamstring again. So he might not even play game 2, which is like a big problem because you're down KD. You're down if you be down Andre Iguodala. So like it's gonna be like now you're gonna ask one of these other guys to really step up and give you buckets and play defense on Kawhi Leonard, which is not good. So that's something I didn't like as well. Another thing I didn't like was the simple fact that Kevin Looney in the pick and roll, they were fouling. And I didn't like that from both teams. Both teams fouled a whole heck of a lot. I think both teams had like 25 or 26 free throw attempts or something like that. It was very, very even. Like, they were calling a whole lot of calls, a whole lot of ticky-tack fouls. I don't know if it was a layover or whatever, but that's what was going on in that game. What I liked about the Warriors, I liked the fact that Curry didn't lay an egg. I felt like Klay kind of laid an egg, but whatever. Like, Klay is like, he's a weird player. He'll have 21 one game, he'll drop 30 the next, 7 the next game. Like, he's up and down kind of guy. DeMarcus Cousins, part of me, had 3 points, whatever the case is. But, you know, like, I did like the fact that Curry played well. I think Draymond, for the circumstance, he played decent or whatever the case is. I like the fact that they didn't get blown out by 20. It might have felt like Toronto was blowing them out and dominating them or whatever the case is, but I feel like as the series progresses and they see how the referees are calling the game, how they're going to run their offense, the counters, because basically they're getting held and fouled a whole heck of a lot, and they're not really used to that defensive pressure. So they're going to adjust to the defensive pressure. But I feel like for them to lose this game like this, it wasn't like they didn't have their chances. That's something that I liked about this game is they always had their chances. You know, they cut it down to 6 in the third quarter. They cut it down to, they had a lead in the second quarter. They cut it down to 2 at one point, and then they would just make like costly turnover or get back on transition defense. And failed to get back on transition defense. So, and that was something that was really poor for them tonight. Their transition defense was bad. They gave up 20 plus fast break points, which is very uncharacteristic about them. Steve Kerr was actually in the huddle. Doris Burke was talking about it, how he was cursing and saying F words, F bombs, whatever the case is, saying that, hey, we talked about transition defense this whole time and you guys aren't doing it. So that's not a good look for them. But overall, I think this is like a typical game one for the whole home team. I don't feel like they dominate. Like the way when you're watching the game and you're watching everything, I just felt like after a while, the suffocating defense and the fact that nobody else could make their layups and dunks, like they had a lot of gimmies at the rim that they were chippies that they were missing, and the ball didn't bounce their way sometimes, which is fine or whatever the case is. Ball bounced more Toronto's way. You saw that with some of those shots. I'm telling you, if you're gonna rely on a steady diet of shooting the ball while the shot clock winds down, you're in trouble with the Golden State Warriors, because that acts like another defender. Same thing with the Warriors. Like, they had a couple possessions where they couldn't get the ball to Klay and Curry, and then like Draymond would hoist up a bad shot, or there was one play when Bell didn't even shoot, he passed it to Draymond, the 24-second shot clock. So, but what the thing was that I took away is like, A, Toronto's defense is real, but B, and I know that Kevin Durant is not playing, and everybody's gonna be like, well, this proves that they need Kevin Durant. They always needed Kevin Durant because they don't necessarily have the depth that they always had. But like, to me, this win wasn't a dominant win. Like, it wasn't like, honestly speaking, it wasn't something to really rest on your laurels, because I think what happens with a lot of teams, they win game one and they get fat, and then they forget, like, hey, we come in tomorrow, we come in next game, and Gasol has 10 points, and Siakam has 15, and Kawhi has 20. So when, if Siakam doesn't give you 30 plus, you're in trouble. Like, honestly speaking, Siakam saved that game one. So it's all about Pascal Siakam game one. That's my big takeaway from everything. Pascal Siakam really put Toronto on his back. Now, are we going to rely on that going forward through the rest of the series? Because some of those bunnies, and I think they said he had a three-pointer. They said he hadn't hit a three-point shot since a month ago. So he's been playing in how many series? That was his first three-pointer at the top of the key. That's why they didn't defend him, which is very weird. I was like, you're not going to defend him or at least stun at him? I would have stunned at him and make him, do a bad pass. But Golden State, they have like weird defensive philosophies at times, which we can't understand. But then, you're watching them play a game, they're down 10, and they cut it down to 7 or whatever the case is. Even towards the end, you saw where Curry got fouled on a 4-point play, cut it down to 7, but defensively they couldn't get their mojo. They couldn't get stops. They couldn't get stops against the Raptors, which is weird. They're used to getting stops, but foul trouble played a role, whatever the case is. And pick and roll defense played a role in that as well. So, but it was really Pascal Siakam's game. I don't think this win deters anybody's pick unless they say Andre Iguodala can't play game 2. Then you're like okay, like now you got a problem because your starters are going down. They're not scoring a lot. Like that's a problem. That's a problem. That's a big problem because honestly speaking, and I always said this, I never thought home court advantage would be a problem for the Golden State Warriors. It's always been health, and that shit that happened. I mean, that thing that happened with Kevin Durant was a key factor and key indicator of that. And then you got the issue with Andre Iguodala. So those things play a key factor and key role in everything. But all in all, it was a good game. It was a good win for the Toronto Raptors. But I'm kind of weary of them being comfortable. I'm kind of weary of them being hyped and overplaying this win for what it really is. It's one step towards your goal, but it doesn't stop. And none of this stops. It's not like something simple. Like there were times where Warriors kept it within striking distance for the most part the whole entire game until they got to 12 and 11. Even then, they cut it back down to 7. So it's just like, to me, what's scary is like what happens when Siakam and Van Fleet. What happens when Gasol is struggling? Because Kawhi didn't have a really great game, so Siakam really put them over the top. So he had an out of his mind game. What happens when he tried to get out of his mind game 2, game 3, game 4, and it's not working? He starts missing. Like that's something that people have to pay attention to. But it was a good game. Toronto got 1-0 in the series. They got to protect home court. They can't lose game 2. If they lose game 2, they're in trouble. And if the Warriors lose Iguodala, they're in trouble as well. Hoops Junction, where Hoops meets Hoopla. Like, comment, subscribe.